Stream, so that is all audio only. Welcome to all our cats worldwide. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on your time zone. This is the pre-stream. We will be starting in 5 minutes. We are just checking audio levels. Can you just let me know if you guys are hearing me correctly, if you guys are hearing Jordan correctly? Jordan, can you sound off?
It's Jordan.
It is Jordan. Looks like we got Paige in as well, which means we're waiting for Jake right now, if I'm not mistaken. Paige, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Excellent. I need to make one final post. I'm juggling a lot of screens right now. I need to make one final post to inform our patrons that they can join this channel. This is our internal crew Discord. And then we'll be starting the Q&A in 3 minutes. I've assembled all the questions on a script. It's basically the ones we've already been answering on Discord. We'll also be taking messages from chat and see if they have any specific questions. Link. Join us for the live stream. Want to ask the crew and cast some questions. That is patron only. That is published now. Alright, Paige, can you turn your webcam on so I can see you? I'm gonna put you guys up on my big screen, which should record to the live stream as well.
Sure, it's making me download an app. 1 second.
Oh yeah, video chat on Discord may require you to. You're trying browser.
Yeah, I've got Firefox, so it's
Okay.
doing that.
I've never tried Discord in browser. I'm actually not sure if it's good. I've always got this desktop app open. All right. We've got a bunch of COVID-related questions as well. I'm just going to give them a generic answer. We did answer those when we sat down with Seal and Lindsay last week. We, of course, have World of Kaiserreich Victoria releasing in 30 minutes. We'll watch it together. I also have a render of World of Kaiserreich George. So we've got Jake's monologue with us as well. We're going to watch both of them. And that will be in the end of October, beginning of November for us. So looks like one video per week, all building up to the final short film release. How are you feeling, Jordan?
I'm feeling good. Confident. Things have been going really well in the editing room, and we're really happy with what we got so far. So big excitements.
Right, guys. Going live in 2 minutes. Let us know if there's anything weird about the audio. And we'll tweak it on our end. This channel has a long and storied history of shenanigans during live streams. Our most famous one was we were in Berlin at PDXCon, and right when I think it was Alex was on stream playing the China, he said something about the Communist Party of China, and then like the power cut out and the entire building like, off. Live stream offline. It was hilarious. So we were in chat like, oh no, there's black cars outside. What do we do? All right, looks like it is 22 on the dot. So I'm going to throw us live. If I can find my correct thing. Screen share. Let's go straight to screen share. Good evening, afternoon, morning, cats, depending on your time zone. This is our second The Divided States Strife live stream. You're all very welcome, and we are very excited to continue our conversation. My guests tonight, today, tomorrow. It's always weird when you've got different time zones. It's like early afternoon for you guys, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
It's about 4.
4 p.m. Chicago time. I am joined in Chicago by movie director Jordan Penelle, who directed the first original Kaiserreich short film, which releases on November 21st. So make sure you have that date marked in your calendar. There's also a premiere live stream scheduled on the channel that you can sign into to watch that movie 1 hour early. I'm also joined by Jake Anderson and Paige Bourne, our 2 lead actors for the short film. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Yeah, doing well. How are you?
Excellent. We've got a good evening from Germany, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Great Britain, a bunch of other countries, Pacific States of America, so the West Coast have already declared independence. Can you guys turn webcams on so we can see you?
Mine is on. Let's try again.
Oh yeah, you're on, Jordan. It's just the other ones.
Oh, okay.
Am I on now?
You guys won't be able to see my my webcam because it's actually on the stream, so you might want to put the stream open on a second monitor if you have that, or a small screen, but mute the audio of that one, or because it has a 1 minute delay to our conversation, so you will be hearing that twice.
Gotcha.
Is it working, Jordan?
Yeah, I should be on. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not seeing you actually. Can you try again? Oh, video disabled by you. Oh, that's interesting. Huh, that's weird.
Vincent.
I had you guys all video mute. I'm not sure. I wasn't even sure that was a thing. Okay, you guys were video muted. That was our first shenanigan of the evening. It would of course not be a Kaiser Cat Cinema live stream without shenanigans. Welcome, good afternoon, guys, and thank you for joining us. We're very excited to talk about The Divided States Strife, the short film. We've got on the right, we've got Jake Anderson playing George in the short, the American Union State supporting brother, and then we have Paige Bourne playing Victoria, who returns to her house as a combined syndicate's militia. We've got a bunch of questions for all you guys, so I'm just gonna go down the list of questions that I have written down. In 15 minutes, we'll watch Will of Kaiserreich Victoria together, do a bunch more questions. Then 30 minutes in, watch it again, bunch more questions, and that is a 1 hour live stream that we're out. That sound good to you guys? Excellent.
Sounds good.
Our first questions are just general director questions. So Jordan, I would like you to answer these. Will there be firefights in the short film WIPSA or UIPS? I think it's UIPSA.
So no, there's not going to be any firefights or any real big action scenes. We wanted to keep this really not grounded, but more personal with the relationships of the characters, and it's not so much about the war as much as it is the relationships between both the family and representatively the United States and the different factions.
Okay, makes total sense. As the budget man, I can also tell you that even if we wanted firefights, we have no money for firefights. We had like three gun props. They were made out of carbon fiber, or what was?
We had a total of 4 prop guns made out of plastic and painted to look real.
They look surprisingly real on camera. I thought it was really good.
They look very good on camera, yeah.
So
you'll see one for like 5 seconds tops that you can get a good look at. It's supposed to be like a Thompson, but it looks really good, and yeah, shout out to Tyler who made all that.
That's awesome. So he made all of that specifically for the short film?
Yes, we talking with the prop master and art department, we pretty late in the game, like 2 weeks out from shooting, we're like, all right, we got all the costumes, we got all the set dressing stuff. We need guns because these guys are militia and they should have guns. And they basically just went out and bought a bunch of plastic guns, painted them up, and real rock stars, those guys. That's they did all the period research themselves, and they're like, this is what would be used at the time. Here you go.
Really well. Congratulations, Tyler and his art team. Just 30 seconds, I need to check my audio levels.
We need guns because these guys are militia and they should have guns. And they basically just went out.
Okay, that's perfect. So that was our first question. That was a Jordan question. I didn't mention, we did have the Fargo truck in there. We should mention the Fargo truck in every live stream.
It's
Jordan,
very important.
It is very important.
So yeah, the truck, period accurate truck for the period. We had a vehicle in the script from the very beginning, but we didn't know what kind of vehicle we could get. So from the very beginning and like shot list and planning and everything, it was all car/truck, like whatever we can get our hands on. And literally the weekend we were shooting, like a couple days when our amazing lead audio person, Taylor Fitzgerald, was going out to get her sound equipment from Second City Sound. She pops into the office and just asks, like, hey, would you guys know where to find these period accurate vehicles? And they say, well, funny you should ask. Fargo and Lovecraft Country were filming like a couple of weeks ago, and they just wrapped up. And so there's all these like period accurate vehicles in the region that were shooting on this show. And they gave us the phone number of the person who managed all the vehicles, and we gave him a call, and then we got the truck from Fargo, which you can see on the poster.
Yeah, it's actually awesome.
An authentic REO Speedwagon.
What was that model on that truck?
It was an 1933 REO Speedwagon, I think. I looked it up afterwards.
Yeah.
But yeah, apparently it was a truck manufacturer before a band.
So Omar Bradley asked me, how did you meet? Actually, that's a you question as well, Jordan. So I think the first part of that is me. How did I meet the casting crew in the first place? And then the second part of that is like, how did you get in touch with our actors and assemble the cast that you did, the production team that you did? So I can speak to the first part of that question. That would be, Jordan, you reached out to me with the script for Strife, and the notion that you had a team together, and what you were looking for was budget. We read it, we were excited, so we decided to go forward on this project. And the second part would be you.
Yeah, so as far as all the crew goes, I knew them all from film school, and it's all people 2 degrees of separation, people I knew, and then they brought on some people they knew. So that was very easy to find. And then as far as cast goes, we used a website called Backstage, which is a really simple website where actors and people looking for actors will just put up casting calls, and then actors will click a button, I'm interested, and then we set up meetings over Zoom because this was during the height of lockdown, so there's absolutely no going around. So we did everything over Zoom pretty much. And yeah, up until shoot day, that was the only times we ever had any contact.
It was actually,
once a week or every other week for Zoom rehearsal.
So I've got a bunch of questions for our actors now. I would like to start with Paige and Jake, but you guys both had this similar question, and it basically came down to like, what are your prior experiences in acting, theater? Like, what's your background before coming to Strife? I would like to hear from Paige first.
All right. Well, I started acting in high school. I came from a family that's not particularly like artistic. It's very like blue collar, and I just kind of did it to make friends in high school. And once I started doing plays, I just kind of got hooked. And film wasn't really on my radar either until I was in college. I studied theater as my major, and the film students were always asking theater students to act in their films all the time. And so that's how I started doing on-camera work. And since then, I mean, I would say like commercials are like my bread and butter, but whenever I get a chance to do shorts, and especially something like period like this, I just always jump at the chance. So
that's interesting. So what kind of commercials do you film?
Lots of like regional and local commercials. Like I was literally in Cincinnati the other day shooting for like some laundry company. So just whatever will take me.
I keep forgetting that you guys have like regional TV because of the size of the states. Like that's not a thing in Belgium. So Jake, same question. What's your background? Like acting, theater?
Yeah. I think not dissimilar to Paige. I did the first play I was in 7th grade in middle school, and it was like a lot of school plays, and eventually I started going to a summer camp where I like also did plays, so I was just sort of doing plays like kind of all year round. And I'm still in college, but I'm my last year. Theater is my like primary major concentration.
That's really interesting. So both of you definitely are career actors. Like, so this is what you want to do in life. This is the main focus and drive. It's actually great to hear that we found you guys. You brought some amazing energy to Strife. We could definitely feel that in the monologues as well, where you had to carry the whole piece with your character. I thought it was awesome. Speaking about your characters, John Reed asked this question, which I think is interesting. He asked it both to Paige and Jake. We'd like to hear from Jake first. So John Reed asks, how would you describe George from a third-person standpoint? For example, of his divided loyalty to either the Union State or his family, and his anger to being treated as a child by his parents. So how would it fit in his personality? I think sort of summarized, like, what is your interpretation of George as a character?
Right. Well, it's a good question. It's sort of complicated. I don't know where to start answer, but it's I think it really that I think what he's totally right on about in the way he's asked the question is the like being treated as a child by his parents. I think that in a lot of ways George feels that that he's being treated as a child by not only his parents but the entire the political structure and society that he growing up was was taught to like revere and respect, but he's watched that sort of all fall apart and crumble and be revealed as sort of ineffective. And so there's a sort of there's a sort of aimlessness in that, like a wanting for a direction and for a cause. And I think the American Union State happens to provide kind of exactly that at this moment in his life, at a moment where I think he feels completely without other options. The American Union State, like, then presents itself as sort of a viable future that he might.
I love that. So definitely George is a very conflicted character. Paige, I would actually like to hear the same for you. Like, what is your understanding of Victoria as a character, her relationship to the combined syndicates at the moment that she returns to her family?
Yeah, I think, what I really love about Victoria is when she gets an idea or when she feels something, she feels it 100%. And I think she grew up thinking the United States was one thing. And then as she grew up and got some life experience, the sort of illusion of what the country was started to shatter for her. And she just kind of couldn't accept life as it was anymore. And she needed to make a change and a new step. And I think with those positive things about Victoria, I think she can also be a little bit impulsive, where like, I think it's hard for her to understand why her family doesn't see things the same way that she does, because she believes it so strongly and it's so clear and makes so much sense to her. And I think she really struggles with her family and her brother particularly not joining the same side as her.
Okay, that's very interesting. We will actually have the father on live stream as well a week or two later, so that's another very interesting character. Also, Anita Costabile, who plays mother, has her own perspective. So it's definitely like a very divided family. I love, Jordan, how you made this piece, and that's what I loved when you gave it to me in script phase, how you sort of brought this entire Second American Civil War into a very intimate setting, that sort of dinner room setting, and made it a family conflict. And that's, I think, why we felt that like Strife was the project that we wanted to go forward with this year. Now that we have that beautiful introduction by Paige Bourne, I think that is the perfect time for us to watch World of Kaiserreich Victoria together. For you guys, that is going to be a bit awkward because I'm going to have to, everyone has to mute, or just say nothing, but it'll be silent while I'm playing this video. You cannot see it. You can probably switch to the live stream and watch it on a 1 minute delay. So I'll need 4 minutes of total silence for you guys. I think it's like a 3 minute short, right, Jordan?
4 minutes. I don't know. Does it have the intro and outro stuff?
Yeah, it has all the intro and outro stuff.
Yeah, probably 3 or 4 minutes.
I'm just gonna let it play. I actually like how you explain the project a bit at the end, so I'm gonna let the whole thing play. 4 minutes, guys.
All right.
So what we are about to watch, to the live stream audience, we are about to watch World of Kaiserreich Victoria, our first live action World of Kaiserreich. It is part of the short film as promotional material. So when Jordan came to us with the project, I said, Jordan, that's awesome. Can you also do like a live action World of Kaiserreich, but then instead of a faction, it would be the perspective of these characters. And I think those would be great trailers, and we'll be releasing one every week until the day Strife releases, which is November 21st, if you have not marked that in your calendar yet. So I'm gonna pop that open right now, guys. And we're gonna go quiet for a little bit. This is World of Kaiserreich Victoria. You are the very first people to watch a live-action World of Kaiserreich in full 4K. I'm not sure whether I'm streaming in 4K. I think not, so that is going to be wasted on you. But there you have it. Oh, I need to turn off my music. Turn on my system audio. Yes, that should do it. All right, World of Kaiserreich Victoria. Here we go, guys. Enjoy.
And equality. I used to believe the United States stood for those ideals. Then I learned. I used to believe an American's voice mattered, that our vote was important and would impact the heading of the nation. I used to believe that Jim, who lived down the lane and who wasn't allowed to drink from the same fountain as me, was equal. Then I learned. I used to believe that Thomas, who worked at the mill and had his head cracked open by a scab's club, could pull himself up by his bootstraps out of the shack way in the back. Then I learned. I learned the truth about my country. They told us that our voices mattered, that we would be able to speak up when we were unhappy. They lied. This republic is a thinly veiled front for the robber barons. I learned that. Then I learned of a better way. After the Great War, the people of France and Britain threw off their chains. If it can happen there, it can happen here. We too can throw off the yoke of capitalist tyranny and make a truly just, free society. Not just for the rich and the privileged, but for all. Not everybody has learned this. There are those who see this wave of change and fear it. But they'll see. I'll show them. They don't have other options.
So that is November 21st for the release of the full short film. You can schedule the live stream.
Divided.
We're gonna let Jordan do
May
a small outro here.
This winter, you are invited to the world premiere of The Divided States, Stories of the Second American Civil War. In The Divided States, a dark story in the late 1930s and 1940s, America falls into chaos as revolutionary groups seize control of Washington, D.C. and Chicago, and extremist groups seize control across the country, leading to the United States government to retreat to Los Angeles. Amongst all this, a rebel girl returns to her home and finds that her house is as divided as the nation. We are Kaiser Cat Cinema, a collective of artists, actors, writers, and musicians dedicated to creating alt history works.
Jordan goes on for a bit here about how we are Kaiser Cat Cinema and how Kaiser Cat Cinema is awesome, but let's for sake of brevity, let's switch back to our audience. Thank you for being quiet during that one, guys. So we just played the full World of Kaiserreich Victoria. I'm not sure if you guys saw it, if you have a second screen up. Alright, let us continue with our questions. Paige, are you ready for some more questions about Victoria?
Let's do it, yeah.
Okay. Actually, Homero from live chat, as well as John Reed, ask, and this is for both of you, if they made a sequel to Strife, would you take up the role of George and Victoria again? If said scenario indeed took place, did you enjoy playing your characters?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, as long as there's an interest and we can make it happen, for sure. I mean, like, first off, I just loved working with the entire cast and crew. Like, it was like one of the most enjoyable on-set experiences I've had in recent memory. So to be able to jump back into it would be really great. But then even beyond just the people I got to work with, I'm totally new to Kaiserreich. And just getting to dive into the lore was really exciting to me. So now that I have this understanding of Victoria and the world, it's something that I would really be interested in diving into some more.
Mm-hmm. So as Paige said here, you guys are the first team to approach this live action. We've said, so this project is started in the early 2000s, and from fairly early phases on, the pipe dream was always, hey, what if this was a movie? So now 2020 is actually, it's not been a great year, but it has at least been the year where Kaiserreich did finally go live action. And Jake, what's your take on this question?
Yeah, I ditto. I feel very much on the same page. It was it was a lovely experience, the whole process of it. And I was like aware of Kaiserreich. I'd heard of it. I was aware of like the premise, but I knew very little before this. And it's been very fun to get to sort of tap into that lore and that extended universe. And I mean, yeah, if we can make a second one and everyone's available and it works out, like I would totally jump at the chance. Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, Jake, you did have a conversation with Seal in the car to and from set, where you guys like talked a little bit about like your character and possible options. Like, what was that conversation about? I would love to hear.
Oh yeah. So Sil, one of the producers, would pick me up. I don't have a car, so he would pick me up, and we would talk about all sorts of things, and we talked about the possibility of like what we might be able to like make after this. Like, is there a second chapter where we like pick up these characters after they've gone their separate ways, and follow their stories as they like branch out from this initial story in Strife.
Okay. That's interesting. Moving on with questions, we got a bunch more here. So John Reed asked you guys, like, what inspired you to get into acting, and who are your role models, like in terms of actors?
I probably, I don't know. I grew up loving movies and watching movies with my family and everything, and Harrison Ford was probably like the first actor that I like really like looked up, just like as a little kid. Love, but there are so many actors that I think are so inspiring.
I think
Philip Seymour Hoffman.
I have your written answer here from the Discord. You mentioned a couple people. I see Philip Seymour Hoffman, Daniel Day-Lewis, Frances McDormand, Adam Driver, Cate Blanchett, Sam Rockwell. Are actors and other artists as well. Paige, what does that look like for you?
Yeah, I think just with my background, I'm really the first person in my family to do something so like creative and artistic. So I think when I told them I was going to act, they were a little like, okay, like go for it. But yeah, I mean, like, I think just because it may not seem like it now, but I'm kind of like a more shy, reserved person, but I just find that when I act, I have kind of an avenue to express thoughts and feelings that I probably wouldn't otherwise. And people that inspire me, I love Cate Blanchett too. I'm a huge fan. And like Meryl Streep, Natalie Portman. I like Florence Pugh a lot too. I've been watching a lot of her movies, so yeah, those are some of my inspirations.
Awesome. Actually, Jordan, this question does apply to you as well. Like, who are your favorite actors? Like, what's the show you're thinking of when you're writing Strife?
Oh boy. I'm just gonna put a disclaimer. Normally I'm very bad with names. There's a few that I know. I mentioned before, Daniel Day-Lewis is incredible and an inspiration to me, especially like his character work is incredible every single time. Others is, especially in relation to this show or this film, but the show that was like a big source of inspiration is Man in the High Castle, the guy who plays John Smith. Again, terrible with names, but most of you should know who I'm talking about. He's incredible, and listening to a bunch of people, all those actors speak about their process, and then directors too. My all-time favorites, Akira Kurosawa is a huge inspiration, just how I wanted to kind of show visually the movie and how things, how the visual language of film relates to everything going on in the story. He's a big inspiration. A lot of his stuff, though, is more about outdoors and how nature relates, which we don't really have, but still a big inspiration. Yeah, it's a big long list.
I actually have a bunch more directorial questions for you, Jordan. Will there be firefights? We did answer this. Are you planning on involving the same actors in future projects? That is Alan on Discord.
Absolutely. If depending on what we're doing next, what kind of resources we have, if we do something bigger, that's more of like a sequel to Strife, that follows all the character stories, absolutely. If we do something else, maybe we still involve them as like a cameo or connect those stories. I'm super open to anything. We're really in the stage of just like, what do we want to do next? And finding what creatively would be the most interesting, but also practical, because we do have a lot of limitations.
Actually, I had a very interesting question come in through live chat from Chris Hirios. He asks Paige and Jake, do you think learning about the lore helped you understand your character's personality and worldview?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think it gives, I think it gave all, so much of the context of the necessary, like, kind of, momentum to get into the thing. Trying to like really understand what the world looks like from these characters' perspectives, and so I definitely. Yeah.
Actually, I have a very interesting idea for a small video. So what we do sometimes within Kaiser Cat Cinema is we do unlisted videos, which are not released publicly, but they're like smaller skits or like just things. That's usually where we edit like random stuff together because it's cool. And then we're thinking of editing your monologue into the original Sawyer monologue from World of Kaiserreich, Union State. Because you say, there's like this moment in your monologue where I say like, he's gonna make every man a king, and I think it like almost matches up with the way Sawyer ends that monologue. Sawyer actor Lucas Webley, by the way, big shout out to him, awesome guy. We're thinking of editing it so it goes from George into Sawyer, and I think it's gonna be really hilarious to see as well. There is a question, but that's more of a mod question. Alexei, whether it would be a Cold War scenario. So Klaus Elberg asks, will there be a canon ending? So there is no canon in Kaiserreich past 1936. That is a bit of a problem for us, as obviously we make movies and there is one story to a movie. It doesn't work like the game does. Our idea has always been like, we do not dictate Kaiserreich canon, right? So the stuff that we do pre-1936 follows canon. Whatever we do post-1936 is part of the expanding possible timelines that are happening. You should see it as basically a fan that goes out from that point in time forward. That is the live chat question, so I can get you guys back on. So acting experience, we did have answered that. We answered this question. Would you take up a role? We answered that question. Yes. Paige, what was your most memorable moment while on set for Strife? What is your view on your future with Kaiser Cat Cinema as a whole? I don't understand the second part of that question. We kind of already answered that, but let's focus on most memorable moments.
Can I share two?
Yeah, sure.
So when we were filming like our big family fight scene, I won't give anything away, like we did it's like one of the biggest scenes to film, and towards the end of it we were just waiting for like a quiet moment to finish, and next door we heard this leaf blower that would not stop running. So we found out that next door there was a guy and his wife watching like a football game outside, and they must have been arguing or something, and so the wife was like, well, I'll show you as you try to watch your game, and she just like kept using her leaf blower so he couldn't hear the game, and like Lindsay tried to like flag her down and she just wasn't paying attention, and so like we made such good time that day, except for when this lady was using her leaf blower.
So I remember that we were on live chat, and they were like, I remember you guys took a break for lunch because like, with this leaf blower we cannot film this scene. What's the second one then, Paige?
And then the second one that sticks out to me, and it's kind of weird and random, but I'm pretty short, and so I have like just these funny memories of like various shoots, like trying to like have me stand on things, so I'm a little bit taller. And in this one in particular, that same scene where we're fighting across the table, I saw Chris grabbed a leaf out of the table and had me stand on it so we could like accomplish the shot perspective. And like, Jordan, maybe this is something for you. It seemed like that was like part of your shot list for the day or something, because normally when that happens, like it's a result of me just not being tall enough for the shot, and you guys seemed like you planned in advance for me to stand on this table leaf, which I thought it was hilarious.
We had this shot that we've been workshopping, and it's during like a really pivotal like power play kind of moment, and so we really wanted to accentuate that in the visual language, and so we had like brainstormed a bunch of different options. It started with like a point of view shot with like you just dead center looking down the barrel of the camera, and then that felt a little weird because there's like no other POV shots in the whole movie, and so we were playing with 180 degree or 180 line jumps and stuff like that, and then using like the lens and focal length and depth of field and all that sort of thing to really try and make you look as big as possible and intimidating and just big. And one of those was to make the table shorter, get you up somehow. We originally wanted apple boxes, but then we didn't get any. So we used the leaves of the table and then camera trickery, and I think it worked okay. Not nearly as exaggerated as we first envisioned, but I think it worked out in the end.
I just thought it was like hilarious and ingenious when I just saw Chris taking the table apart. I was like, I'll add that to the list.
I'm going to take a quick minute to answer 2 questions from live chat that came in and think are quite interesting. So one question is, wait just a minute. Yes, are we focusing on fleshing out one possible timeline with videos like these, or do we plan on doing videos on multiple timelines, universes? I can answer the first part of that. So Kaiser Cat Cinema videos loosely group into timelines. We have a habit of not telling you which timeline it is, because I think part of the fun would be figuring out. So if you want to start down that rabbit hole, go watch our radio shows, because those specifically indicate, like with the news and the radio events, the timeline that something is happening in. So I will say, broadly, our shows are going to fit into these radio episodes. So those are basically setting out larger timelines. The animatic, for example, takes place in the darkest timeline, or at least the start of the darkest timeline, maybe, because we have Browder take over CSA, and we have a Pali Union State. But Jordan, like, what timeline does Strife take place in?
So my original vision for Strife was actually that it wasn't really in a timeline. It was kind of this like big, esoteric, etheric, just like conceptual thing of just like, oh, this is not really what's happening. It's like a representation of what's going on in America. But that is a little pretentious, maybe. And so now I'm thinking we just say it's in its own timeline, and it's kind of independent of timelines. It's like if everything timelines like branch out, then maybe they all converge for this one moment of this one family, but then they rebranch out again. Who's to say?
In terms of when the short is situated, it would probably fit most with the calm before the storm scenario. And so to Paige and Jake, for who these may be weird terms, so Kaiserreich is a alternate history mod, right? But it is not one alternate history. So Kaiserreich has the premise that Germany wins World War One, some other weird stuff happens, and then the game starts in 1936. But from that point onwards, it's all random number generation, and that's the biggest strength of this universe, is that there's like a whole range of things that can happen, from very hopeful things to extremely dark things. That is why we use terms like the darkest timeline, because that means that literally all the worst things are happening. The opposite of that is what we call, in community, we call it the blessed timeline. And we actually have a full radio show on that, where there is no World War II, because a particular set of people like come into power, and like peace treaties are signed, and like a bunch of stuff. So that's all parts of like the wider universe that Kaiserreich belongs to, and our team, the Divided States, as well. So Jake, I would like to hear your favorite moments on set.
There were a lot of great moments. Like Paige has said before, like we all like got along really well, and I'm remembering specifically there was a scene that we were shooting a scene where George comes into his room and he's getting his Union State jacket that he has like he's like sewn the star onto himself and like got out, and he's putting on this jacket, and it's a really important moment for him. While we were shooting, we were like really running out of time, and it was toward the end of the day, and we sort of had to giddy up to get this scene done. And so I just remember kind of all of us realizing, like, all right, we have to be like really, pretty like efficient and clinical and like get this done. And I think that was just a moment where every part of the crew I thought was like working so like well in tandem, and we like went upstairs in this house and shot this scene like incredibly quickly. It was just like boom, right there, right to the to what we were trying to get, and yeah, and it was just sort of that's been kind of memorable for me.
Well, I think just in general, you guys shot a lot of content with a very limited amount of time, because you only had at Airbnb for a weekend. And I knew, Jordan, I gave you like a really, really big task list on this one, because not only did you have to do a 10-minute short film, you also had to do 3 monologues. Obviously, the trailer uses a lot of shots. So it was definitely like a tall order for you guys, and you super came through on that. We're enormously grateful, and we think the resulting short film is great. We can't wait to show it to you guys. November 21st, again, I'm gonna keep saying that date because people tend to forget. I've gotten some DMs like, hey, when's the short film releasing? When's the short film releasing? I'm like, it's on the Discord, like it's literally like on the top banner. November 21st, like, schedule that. So guys, a special treat for you guys. We're going to watch next week's World of Kaiserreich, which is World of Kaiserreich George, or Jake's monologue. So I'm going to need another 4 minutes of silence for you guys. Let us see if I can find... Yes. This is not the final edit of Jake's monologue here. So this is Jake as his character George talking about the Union State. Not the final edit, pretty close to final, so I would say it is representative of what we will see next week. Here we go, Jake's monologue.
Every man a king. That's the promise made by Huey Long. When he says he cares about every man, I believe him. He's the only politician I've ever seen that can actually be trusted. Some call him a populist or a demagogue, but he actually walks the walk. I remember back in '36 when he campaigned, he stopped by to give a speech. He looked so hopeful, so caring, like a father or uncle. And now that things are falling apart, he's taken it upon himself to fight for what's right, to defend the poor and oppressed without destroying everything America stands for. I may be young, but I'm ready to fight. Already, classmates of mine are running away to join up. A friend of mine with the Cindy's. But they made their choice. They put their money where their mouth is. And now it's my turn. I'm going to tell them. Tell them what I believe in and why I do. I'm going to show them that I'm not a kid anymore. That I'm my own man, and just like the American Union State, I'm going to stand strong in the face of adversity. Like any American would.
There we go. So no music on that one yet. As you can see, this is a rough cut. We're waiting for Carly to send us the final version of that. Will be on the channel next week. Okay, I'm back in the chat. So we have about 20 minutes left on this live stream. Let's just answer some questions. We've got a bunch more from live chat. So Omar Bradley asks, how did you guys get into acting? I would say you've answered that question both. Okay. So Omar Bradley also asked Paige and Jake, so what was the experience like of doing a timepiece like this, alternate history, which is fairly rare. It's coming up as a genre now. So Jake, I would like to hear from you first.
Yeah, just on the
so what's the experience?
On this, like, nature of it as historical, like alt fiction. Well, I think it was just very fun. And I'm used to, I've done a lot of plays and like short films, like student films and things that that are taking place in a universe that is like, you know, not quite ours, but somehow adjacent, and those sort of like imaginative leaps and connections that have to be made to bring a sense of reality to it. And so, you know, that it in a way that didn't feel very different or anything, but it was definitely having the existing lore there made it much more easy to get into that mindset in the first place, I think.
Okay. And Paige, like, what does that look like for you? What was your experience doing a timepiece like this?
Yeah, well, I mean, like it's really cool to get to do one because it is so rare. And I've done period and stylized pieces in theater, but to get to do it in a short film was really exciting. And yeah, I liked that the lore was so rich and deep. Where I feel like even if you do like dystopian or sci-fi films, a lot of times the world is created just for whatever that short film is, and so you spend most of your time trying to like fill in gaps or missing pieces. And like with Kaiserreich, like there's already this awesome established lore that we got to dive into instead. And to kind of go back to the earlier question, like it was really helpful in our Zoom rehearsals. Like there was one where we went almost line by line and asked Jordan questions of like, okay, so what does this mean when this faction does this? And it really helped open up the world to be able to explore this existing lore. And of course, it was really cool to have like period props and costumes and like to be on the Fargo truck.
Yeah, that's we can always say we had the Fargo truck. Jordan, maybe you can speak a bit as to obviously that is the biggest challenge, right? It is a timepiece, so we don't just get to take our camera, go downtown LA and shoot, because that is highly problematic considering the skyline. So like what are you thinking of when you're shooting, because you have to keep an account like, oh man, these costumes, like the skylines need to match and all this stuff?
I mean, honestly, it's very challenging, especially for a small budget indie project where we don't have a lot of pull. We don't have a lot of resources. You have to be, I mean, of course, when making a film, you have to be very mindful of your framing and your shot, but doubly so when you can't have anything past a certain time frame in. You have to take a lot into account. I mean, for the ending, a lot of the composition we wanted, we simply could not do. Most of the ending, the shots are improvised because where we shot, we could not get the shots we wanted. Because there's a modern parking lot 20 feet down the road, full of SUVs and Corollas and Priuses and whatnot. Sorry, Vincent?
Oh yeah. I think like for example, in a densely populated area like where I live, there is like nothing within a 30-mile radius where you can point a camera at anything and not see like a windmill or an electricity pole. It's really challenging.
Absolutely. And I mean, that's kind of the advantage with the United States. It's very large and a lot of it's very empty. And a lot of where we shot the outside was not super empty, but empty enough and old enough looking. And then our interiors, I mean, frankly speaking, it's not the most authentic. It's more 60s and 70s than it is 30s. But there's this idea of, combined with suspension of disbelief, that you don't have to make it perfect, because if you suspend your disbelief and it looks close enough, then that'll work good enough, because frankly, with our resources, we can't get a 100% period accurate film. But a lot of what you can do with your framing and shots and color and some stuff in post will really help sell that this takes place in the 30s and 40s, and that's what we're counting on.
Actually, this is actually an idea that I was going to discuss with you in a meeting at some point in the future. But I mean, this live stream is as good as a platform for that as well. If we want to like go super weird with it, like right now we're doing the animatic, right, and we're doing the short film, and we're considering those to be like to have a Chinese wall between them. But like, what if your next short film, when there's a complex shot, like we just put nice illustrations there, and we have the actors voice act that sequence, and then we get back to an interior shot, it switches back to live action. It's not something you see often.
No, it's not like a super common thing you see, but I mean, at the end of the day, the animatic, the short, whatever, it's art, and these are all choices we have to make. And as long as it serves the story, I feel it's a good choice.
I think we should definitely consider that. Like, have just a disclaimer, be like, hey, we're a small indie shop. We cannot have set pieces. So everything that would be CGI, we just made a nice illustration and like storyboarded that, and it goes and it mixes between those two. So suspend your disbelief with us. Just a random idea I had. But as Jordan said, we have the challenges that we're working with a timepiece. Those interiors need to match. Like, you guys had to blind all these windows. We can't see out of windows because seeing out of windows would mean seeing like the modern pickup truck that's standing just outside. It means seeing Lindsay at crafty table, seeing set pupper. What's the pupper's name again?
We didn't have any animals on set.
Oh, he wasn't on set. Carolyn's new pup. Oh, okay.
Oh no, sadly no.
We have a bunch of pictures of Caroline got like this wonderful lap puppy a month ago or so, and he's growing really fast. It's really cool. To stay on topic, we have 15 more minutes. Let's do a bunch more questions from live chat. One final viewing of World of Kaiserreich Victoria, and then we will be out for today. Paige, how was like auditioning through Zoom? Like, that is one of the like more specific things that we did. We had no actual physical contact between actors until the actual day of shooting. So you guys had to rehearse through Zoom, had to audition through Zoom. Like, what was that like?
Yeah, I'll be honest, it's weird. Like, if we could, it'd be so great to be in person, but that's just not a reality right now. But I mean, going forward, even when things do go back to whatever normal is after this, I think Zoom opens up a lot of cool possibilities for like being able to rehearse or meet people that live really far away. Like, it was awesome to be able to have those initial Zoom rehearsals, because when I walked on set, I felt like I already knew these people. I felt prepared, and that was really invaluable. But yeah, just auditioning over Zoom, it was just really odd to have boxes of people as your like scene partners. Yeah, I mean, it's something to get used to, but I think it's cool that we have this technology in place right now to just kind of make the best of what we have.
I actually think that Zoom will find a place among like the repertoire of like the inventory of things that we can do. As you said, I think first table reads through Zooms or additional rehearsals when like someone's struggling or needs a little more director input. It won't replace the actual like in flesh stuff, because that's like both the acting, the physical appearance of it is very important. I think during the first castings you guys did, I felt we had like a really good idea of who to cast through Zoom only. Like, you guys had great energy on camera, and we were seeing you on camera. So I think there's definitely a place for Zoom, and even after the pandemic we'll be seeing I hope more of that as well. See like a bigger range of actors in the initial rounds. We had a ton of actors come in. A lot of interest from backstage. Jake, like, what was that for you? Your first Zoom audition?
Yeah, I think you're right on that. There are upsides and downsides to Zoom, and it allows a wider reach, and to be able to meet simultaneously with people who you are not geographically close to. But then is limiting in other ways. I'd like audition for a few school like college-based things over Zoom, but when I found this project listed on Backstage and applied to it, this was sort of the first. This is like, I think it was the first like Backstage connection audition that I'd done, and so yeah, it was, it's always funny being like alone one moment, just like with your laptop, and then suddenly sort of in a sense like in a room of people that you've never met before. But yeah, I mean, I think we used it. I think we used it well and we're able to get the benefits from it.
For you specifically, Jake, I remember I was there for your first audition. You as well, Paige. But your first audition was very memorable. I think you really nailed the character at a very, very early junction. Like, just your first reads, the first feedback you got from Jordan, you were already like really on track to getting George and getting that sort of that feeling that we wanted in the film. So we all felt very confident about you after that audition. So I think it's definitely like an accomplishment of both of you to just go from Zoom waiting room staring at your screen and you guys had I think you guys had 10 minutes. Like Jordan, what was that first? It
yeah,
was really
the first
fast. Yeah.
auditions we had like 10-minute windows getting through people, and yeah, I mean from the we told people like please try and show up like 5-10 minutes before, and like we'll let you in, and like from that 5 to 10 minutes of just like it's not even like a real waiting room, it's the Zoom waiting room, so you're super alone just sitting at a black screen, and then once you get in and you see like these 3-4 people or however many we had on the panel again, like, hello, thank you for coming in, this person's going to be reading with you, you have the script, yes, okay, go. I mean, I imagine it's much more intimidating. I've never been on the other side of an audition. I've always been the person being auditioned towards.
Yeah.
And I imagine it's much more intimidating on Zoom, but also a lot more practical. Yeah, I don't know. From the very first moment we saw you guys, it was like, they got it.
We actually just ran a second audition for the animatic because we had to staff up a bunch for that. We had 400 people come in, brought it down 25. We now have everyone locked for the animatic as well. I actually had a lot of fun during those auditions, Jordan, especially like Corey Landis stands out. So Corey B. Landis will be playing Howard Langdon, so our Huey Long character. And he brought like so much energy to that role, and we played the scene where it's Peli and Yui having a debate on the future of the Union State, and like I felt really in the moment. I had a lot of fun with him. And then Marcus was there, who's our lead animator. He said like, yeah, that is like he's got that Yui Long energy that we want. We also had him do like speeches of Yui Long. Definitely on the ball. I think there's great creative possibilities in those initial Zoom auditions, and I felt really good about how you guys did this, kept it all COVID safe, which segues nicely into this question by Chris Hirios, which we have answered in various ways, but we'll probably have to answer several times. I'll just put it to you, Jordan. Chris Hirios, did the threat of COVID-19 change the atmosphere of the film shoot compared to pre-COVID shoots you have been on?
Well, I'll say first that being on set is a very unique experience, especially for people who are passionate about filmmaking. There's really nothing like being on set. There's this kind of atmosphere of ordered chaos. Everybody's running around doing their own thing, but then it's all towards this common goal, and everybody really knows what they're doing. And in that sense, things were pretty similar. Like, a lot of the rules that you have to follow with COVID, like don't touch other people's things, sanitize your stuff, all that sort of thing, like already kind of happens. Like sound person doesn't touch a camera under any circumstances. Actors don't touch anything unless they're given it. So a lot of that still applies. And I think what with the COVID situation, a lot of that still applied and was similar. The only difference really was during more social times and social periods during the day, such as lunch and crafty, is just there's a lot more separation there, because usually that's very social time on set. During lunch you have a half hour to just talk. But then again, there's also a lot of socializing just going on set normally, like in between takes. Like I remember vividly a lot of times when we would be, especially during the dinner scene, I remember when in between takes setting up a camera or something or going over footage, I remember me and Chris and maybe Drew or the sound people, Taylor, would be talking, and then I remember hearing in the background the actors just goofing off. Which, I mean, that's what happens on set. So yeah, I mean, COVID didn't really change the atmosphere. It's still a very kind of lighthearted place that is just fun. But it just kind of changed how that fun is had, I guess.
So I've got another question from live chat here. So Jake and Paige, like, how did you guys prepare for this? Did you go read the novels, watch our radio shows, which I'm still trying to promote? Nobody has ever seen our radio shows, I think. Watch the like some of the movies we have on the channel. Like, what did your preparation look like for this role?
I definitely spent some hours perusing the Kaiser Cat Cinema YouTube page and reading different like online, reading different wikis and whatever. And also I watched like a little footage of some YouTubers like actually playing the game. Just because I wanted to, sort of have contact with that, like the source thing, like the original sort of impetus for all this. Yeah, I don't know.
So bunch of stuff. Paige, what did you do specifically to prepare for Victoria?
Yeah, my preparation was really similar. I watched as many of the Kaiser Cat Cinema YouTube videos as I could, and then I went on the wiki and like looked up all of the different factions. And yeah, doing that just like really helped unlock the script because there were just so many degrees of separation at first that it was kind of hard for me to connect with what was going on in this world. But then once I understood the context of who these people are, what these factions stand for, it just really like unlocked the world for me. And then like driving to set every day, I made like a playlist that just helped me like get in the zone because music helps me out a lot. And so that was just like the finishing touch.
Was that Pete Seeger? That's our Pete Seeger is our guy for CSA music, I would say.
Oh, I'm going to have to check that out.
Yeah, he did, so in the 1910s and 20s, I'm not sure when Pete Seeger, he's, so early 20th century, he did a lot of labor songs in Chicago area. So we've covered a bunch of his songs. I think Rebel Girl is, like he made Rebel Girl, he made Which Side. But Which Side was also co-opted. Yeah, it's a complex thing. But those songs are actually songs from the Chicago labor movements that in the timeline of Kaiserreich form the combined syndicates, like become the core of this revolutionary front, which is really interesting. I wanted to say something about an upcoming webshop sale, but that will have to wait. It looks like we're almost out of time, actually. Oh man, 2 minutes. Guys, this is, we're gonna close off the live stream. I just want to do one last viewing of World of Kaiserreich Victoria with you guys, and then we'll say bye to everyone. So can you guys hold up for 3 minutes? Yeah, 3 minutes should do it. So I need to find my files again. Live stream content. All right, so guys, this is World of Kaiserreich Victoria. Is my music? I had my music off already. That's great. That's perfect. All right, one last viewing. World of Kaiserreich Victoria.
Freedom and equality. I used to believe the United States stood for those ideals. Then I learned. I used to believe an American's voice mattered, that our vote was important and would impact the heading of the nation. I used to believe that Jim, who lived down the lane and who wasn't allowed to drink from the same fountain as me, was equal. Then I learned. I used to believe that Thomas, who worked at the mill and had his head cracked open by a scab's club, could pull himself up by his bootstraps out of the shack way in the back. Then I learned. I learned the truth about my country. They told us that our voices mattered, that we would be able to speak up when we were unhappy. They lied. This republic is a thinly veiled front for the robber barons. I learned that. Then I learned of a better way. After the Great War, the people of France and Britain threw off their chains. If it can happen there, it can happen here. We too can throw off the yoke of capitalist tyranny and make a truly just, free society. Not just for the rich and the privileged, but for all. Not everybody has learned this. There are those who see this wave of change and fear it. But they'll see. I'll show them. They don't have other options.
That is November 21st, Divided We Fall, the first release of the Divided States Strife. First live action short film done by our crew in Chicago. Director Jordan Penelle and Glimpse of Gold Pictures are partners. starring Paige Bourne as Victoria, starring Jake Anderson as George. Congratulations, guys. Great work. We're looking forward to seeing the final film. We actually have a screening on Sunday with crew and patrons. So I'll see you guys there. We'll chat a little bit. It's going to be a relaxed atmosphere. That is it. Do you guys have anything you would like to share with the channel before we sign off for the day?
Just thank you all so much for dropping in and supporting Kaiser Cat Cinema. Keep buying their stuff if you want to see more stuff.
Simple as that. We actually have the Strife movie poster available on the web shop. I made an original poster with photography by Chris, our director of photography. Made a cool little composition with the Chicago burning skyline from the 1940s. You can buy that poster if you would like to support the short film. So Paige, thank you for joining us. Any final words before we sign off?
I'm just echoing what Jordan said. Thanks.
Okay. Jake, any last words?
Yeah, likewise. Thank you all. Yeah, it's been a pleasure. I can't wait to see this movie.
Awesome. So for the rest of you, that is November 21st. We are looking forward to seeing you guys next week for the release of World of Kaiserreich George. We have a web shop sale coming. I'll put a video that on Wednesday. It goes into some moodly stuff about COVID and Postal and all that stuff. But that's not relevant right now. I want to thank all of you for joining us tonight. I want to thank you for your continued support of Kaiser Cat Cinema. And until next time, see you guys. All right, we're going to hold for 30 seconds while our live stream catches up. Coming. I'll put a video that just a minute. Wednesday, it goes into some moodly stuff about COVID and Postal and all that stuff. But that's not relevant right now. Don't worry. I want to thank all of you for joining us tonight. I want to thank you for your continued support of Kaiser Cat Cinema. I'm watching. I've got some cool news. Okay, so I need to end stream for 30 seconds while our live stream.